The faucet coughed. A sputtering, then silence. Not a drip, not a drop. The metallic tang of fear filled my throat. This wasn't just another drought, this was it. The last reservoir, the last well, the last hope, all bone dry. We'd always known this day might come, the warnings echoing for decades, but we, in our human arrogance, assumed it wouldn't happen in our lifetime. We were wrong. The world felt like a ticking time bomb, each second bringing us closer to the brink. The air, once alive with the sounds of nature and civilization, hung heavy with dread. The last drop had fallen, and with it our world was about to change forever. Morning arrived, not with the cheerful chirping of birds, but with an eerie silence. The sun, usually a welcome sight, felt like a malevolent eye, baking the parched earth. I reached for my bedside glass of water, the ritual start to my day. Empty. My throat felt like sandpaper. Gone were the days of long, luxurious showers. We were down to a cup for a sponge bath, carefully collected rainwater, our only solace. But the sky had been miserly lately, offering no respite from the relentless heat. Even the simplest tasks now seemed insurmountable. Brushing my teeth with a thimbleful of precious water, washing my face with a damp cloth. Each action a stark reminder of what we had taken for granted. The world as we knew it was gone, washed away by our own negligence. The streets, usually teeming with life, were eerily deserted. Stores stood empty, their shelves bare. The few remaining bottles of water were guarded by armed men, a grim testament to our desperation. The promises of authorities rang hollow, their words as dry and empty as the riverbeds. The lines for water rations snaked for blocks, a sea of parched throats and desperate eyes. Fights broke out easily, fueled by fear and dwindling supplies. The fabric of society, once strong and vibrant, was unraveling thread by thread. The news, once a source of information, now offered only a steady stream of despair. Reports of dying crops, dwindling livestock, and mass migrations painted a bleak picture of a world on the brink. The future, once bright with promise, now loomed dark and uncertain. I remember a time when water flowed freely. We took long showers, let the faucet run while brushing our teeth, and thought nothing of lush green lawns, sparkling swimming pools and water parks. We washed our cars with reckless abandon, hosed down sidewalks and let sprinklers drench the pavement. Water everywhere, but not a drop to drink. Those memories, once cherished, now felt like a painful indictment. We had been warned, time and again, about the consequences of our actions. But we, in our infinite capacity for denial, chose to ignore the signs. The climate was changing, the experts cautioned, but we plugged our ears and continued our wasteful ways. Now, the consequences of our inaction were crashing down around us. The rivers that once flowed with life were reduced to dusty scars on the landscape. The lakes that once shimmered under the sun were now cracked and barren, their depths echoing with the ghosts of a watery past. Section 5. A World Running Dry. The day the last major river ran dry, a collective gasp rippled across the globe. It was a moment seared into our collective memory, a stark symbol of our folly. A mighty river, once a source of life for countless communities, was now a desolate wasteland. The news reports that day were filled with images of despair farmers weeping over their withered crops, families forced to flee their homes in search of water, children with cracked lips and sunken eyes. The world watched in horror as the reality of our situation sunk in. The planet, once a vibrant blue and green jewel, was slowly turning brown. The once fertile lands were now deserts, the once thriving forests reduced to skeletal remains. The air, once filled with the music of nature, was now thick with dust and the cries of dying animals. Section 6. Parched Lives. Across the world, stories of human suffering unfolded. Mothers went without to give their last drop to their children. The elderly, their bodies weakened by thirst, succumbed to the unforgiving heat. Hospitals, overwhelmed and undersupplied, became places of last resort. I saw a young boy, no older than 10, huddled in the shade of a withered tree, his eyes glazed over with dehydration. His mother, her face etched with worry, desperately tried to cool his forehead with a damp cloth. There were no tears left to cry, only a silent plea for a miracle. In the refugee camps, where millions sought refuge from the drought-stricken regions, hope was a precious commodity. Tensions ran high as people fought for access to water, food and shelter. Humanity, stripped of its comforts, was reduced to its most primal instincts. Section 7. nature's thirst. The natural world, once teeming with life, was the first casualty in this war against thirst. Forests, once lush and vibrant, were reduced to tinderboxes, their skeletal remains stark reminders of the life they once held. Animals, driven to desperation by thirst, fought amongst themselves for dwindling water sources. The majestic elephants, once symbols of strength and wisdom, were now reduced to scavenging for scraps in the parched earth. The playful monkeys, their chatter once a constant soundtrack in the jungle, were now silent, their bodies too weak to move. The delicate balance of the ecosystem had been shattered, its intricate web of life torn apart by our recklessness. We had forgotten that we are not masters of nature, but merely a part of it. And now, nature was reminding us of that fact in the most brutal way possible. Yet, even in the face of such desolation, the human spirit proved resilient. Innovation blossomed in the face of adversity. Scientists worked tirelessly, developing new technologies to extract moisture from the air, desalinate seawater, and recycle wastewater. Communities came together, sharing their dwindling resources and supporting those in need. Rooftop gardens sprung up in urban areas, providing fresh produce and a sense of hope. People learned to adapt, to conserve, to make do with less. The human spirit, pushed to the brink, found new reserves of strength and ingenuity. We had created this crisis, but we were determined to overcome it. The fight for survival had ignited a spark of innovation, a collective will to find a way forward. The world had changed. Water, once taken for granted, was now a precious commodity, every drop valued and conserved. We had learned our lesson, albeit a painful one. The era of reckless consumption was over. Children, growing up in this new world, learned the value of water from a young age. They understood that every drop counted, that conservation was not a choice but a necessity. They were the generation that would inherit the consequences of our actions. But they were also the generation that would rebuild a better future. The lessons learned from this crisis extended far beyond water conservation. We had learned the importance of listening to the warnings of science, of acting collectively for the common good, of understanding that we are all interconnected and that our actions have consequences. This is not a tale of some dystopian future. This is a warning. The crisis we face is not a distant threat, but a present reality. Climate change is real, and its effects are being felt around the world. Droughts are becoming more frequent and severe, water tables are falling, and glaciers are melting at an alarming rate. We are all responsible for the state of our planet. The choices we make today will determine the future of our children and grandchildren. We cannot afford to be complacent. We cannot afford to wait for someone else to act. The time for action is now. We must demand that our leaders take bold action to address climate change. We must hold corporations accountable for their environmental practices. And we must all make changes in our own lives to reduce our impact on the planet. The future is not yet written. The choices we make today will determine whether we create a world of scarcity and conflict or a world of abundance and cooperation. We have the power to change course. We have the power to create a future where water is respected, conserved, and shared by all. Imagine a world where every child has access to clean, safe water. Imagine a world where rivers flow freely, where forests thrive, and where the air is clean and fresh. Imagine a world where we live in harmony with nature, rather than in conflict with it. This is the future we must fight for. This is the future our children deserve. Let us be the generation that turns the tide, that heals the planet, and that ensures a future where every drop counts.